Oh, hello. Welcome to the 2013 Hundie Challenge. Today we're going to be discussing The Lion King by Saul Tighe. Dee-doo-dee-doo-doo, dee-doo-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo-doo-doo, dee-doo-dee-doo-doo, dee-doo-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo-doo. Boy, I sure can pick 'em. I don't know how I managed to stack these two novels on top of one another. In case you're wondering, I've never really gone over this. But there's a reason why there's 100 novels on the Modern Library list, but I'm not going in that order. Just kind of because of availability, basically. I knew if I said to myself I'm going to read, 100 to 1 in that order or whatever, it would never happen. Because it's based on whether it's available at the library, how long it takes me to order it through interlibrary loan, and then once I get the books home, because I'm getting... for a 2-week stint at the library, for a 2-week checkout, I'm getting 4 books under the theory you want to read 2 books a week or thereabouts to stay on track. So once I get the books home, then even if those 4 books are in anything like the order that I originally started out in, I would read those in whatever order felt right to me. So, if I just read a 800-page tome, I might just grab the next one that's, only 300 pages or whatever. So that's what happened here. I happened to read Invisible Man, which was around 600 pages. And when I came back, I didn't want to go right into the Studs-Lonergan trilogy. Spoiler, that's what we're discussing next time. So I grabbed Henderson the Rain King at a scant just over 300 pages. I had also intended not to do any author that had 2 or more books on the list until I'd gone through everyone once. However, again, just based on availability, I ended up hitting my second and last Saul Bellow novel before I hit everything else. So that's more than you ever wanted to know. But anyway, the reason why I bring all this up is this whole experience has been like a study in random contrasts and that sort of thing. So, you imagine if I read Invisible Man before, Go Tell It on the Mountain, or, if I hadn't read 1984 and I read Brave New World before I read 1984, and so on and so forth. That's part of randomizing this list. It messes with the way that you think about these books. So when I read Invisible Man, and it was, a realistic depiction of, politics in the black community in America in the early half of the 20th century, and it was kind of melodramatic and realistic in its depiction. And then I come to Henderson the Rain King, which is just this buffoonish, out of the 19th century, Kipling style, Darkest Africa novel that Bellow just kind of made up, these African tribes, and made up their customs, and, I don't know how much research went into it, but it's, like reading, Tintin in the Congo. It's like a throwback to, the old-fashioned, colonial racism. Now, how I read these 2 books in a row, Karma or The Stars or whatever, but what a striking contrast. That being said, Henderson himself, the white man, the great big fat piggish man, he raised pigs in the States, and as the novel goes on, it kind of suggests that maybe in a metaphorical sense you become like the animals that you surround yourself with. Maybe there's a deeper meaning there, that you become like the humans you surround yourself with, animals being humans, and so on and so forth. So Henderson has made himself very much like a pig, and he goes into the jungle, and he meets an African king who is very much like a lion because he has surrounded himself by lions. So if you can get over kind of the very backwards insulting kind of old-fashioned racism to it. There is kind of an interesting story here. Henderson is a buffoon, just a total man-child, kind of in like the Adam Sandler sense. Not really like, not like Benny Compson kind of man-child, but more like he's just a buffoon. Everything he does turns to crap. I think he even says once in the book, I feel like I have the reverse Midas touch. Everything I touch turns to shit. Like he tries to save this one tribe from the frogs that have invaded their watering hole, and they feel like animals are sacred and they can't touch the frogs, so he decides to blow it up. And he blows up the whole watering hole because he's a buffoon, and that's kind of his MO. Then he moves on to this other tribe, and the king there kind of tries to teach him about if you want to surround yourself with lions, if you want to be like a lion. And Henderson realizes that since he's surrounded himself with pigs his whole life, he's now like a pig, and he wonders if he can become a lion. So it's interestingly kind of like a coming-of-age story almost for a middle-aged man. Maybe like a midlife crisis coming-of-age kind of story. And, well, might as well touch on it since, like I said, this is the first book that I did multiple books by the same author so far in this challenge. Strikingly different from Augie March, which was, Augie March had its flights of fancy, but that was much more realistic. Like, I almost felt like it was a roman à clef. Like, it couldn't have been that far from Saul Bellows' real experiences and that sort of thing. And this is almost like a fantasy, like a imagination of what a safari would have been like. And, I'm sure that he has been on a safari and had some of these experiences that informed this, but it's still very much more like on the fanciful end of things. The it's again heavy with metaphor and symbology, but it's so kind of farcical that the symbols are. Boy, I really can't talk for this review, can I? In any case, it was fine. It was a little bit of a throwback. If you're particularly sensitive to race, don't read any of these books because they've all varied in their levels of racism. Some are much better than others, but this one was a little bit backwards. But in terms of metaphor and that sort of thing, it had some interesting points and some interesting things to say. So thanks for tuning in. Sorry I was stumbling all over my tongue this time. Next time we're going to be talking about the Studs Lonigan trilogy. Thanks for tuning in.